Everyone in the corporate world knew about John Corporation. It was the number one company in the country, known for its impeccable quality, unbreakable work ethics, and ironclad discipline. The employees wore their ID card like medals, proud to be a part of something bigger than themselves. Clients dreamed of getting deals here. Competitors feared its precision, and at the center of this entire empire sat one name: John Jungkook, the youngest CEO in the nation's history, a man of few words and endless expectations, ruthless in the boardroom, feared in meetings and yet respected without question. His gaze alone was enough to shut people up mid sentence, and his silence that was louder than any outburst. But if there was one person in the building who wasn't completely terrified of him, it was you, his secretary. You weren't the typical silent yes sir kind of employee. Sure, your work ethic was flawless and he couldn't deny you were the best at what you did. Schedules, presentations, client calls, travel arrangements, you had it all memorized, often doing it better than the actual departments assigned to them. If he had to pick one person to run the company with him in a crisis, it would be you. But you had a reputation of being a little childish, skipping meetings once in a while, faking a cold to avoid company dinners, once even escaping a cocktail party by pretending you had twisted your ankle, which you had absolutely not. You were sunshine in an otherwise grey building. Sometimes he would walk out of his office to see you spinning in your chair, munching chips with your screen open to a half finished file, and every time he narrowed his eyes at you, you would flash a grin and say, 10 minutes, I swear I'm back on it. He never smiled back, not on the outside, but there was something about the way your voice filled the silence that he didn't hate. Today, however, it was different. You weren't spinning in your chair, you weren't nibbling on snacks or gossiping with the marketing team. You were there at your desk but silent, tapping away, lips pressed tightly together, a tissue crumpled near your keyboard, and a thick scarf around your neck despite the office heating. You had been feeling terrible since morning, a pounding headache, nausea, body chills, but you couldn't call in sick. Not after last time, the fake migraine during the gala or that sudden stomach bug at the Christmas party. You had cried wolf a few too many times, so you showed up. You swallowed down the fever, the chills, the rising nausea, and smiled when needed. Sort of. The soft click of the CEO's office door was enough to shift the entire hallway into a silent buzz. Staff straightened, screens flickered back to life. No one dared look too relaxed when John Jungkook walked by. He stepped out with his usual black coffee in hand. Unsweetened, double shot, no cream, just the way he liked his mornings. His steps were precise, sharp, tailored like the three-piece suit hugging his form. His jaw was set, his dark eyes scanning the hallway like a hawk, looking for the tiniest glitch in the perfection. Then his gaze landed on you and stopped. His eyes narrowed, he started walking. You didn't notice at first, your head was throbbing too much. It felt like you were wearing a helmet filled with water, every breath heavier than the last. Miss Lee, your heart skipped at the familiar tone. That voice could snap anyone to attention, and today it stabbed straight into your skull. You blinked and turned your head slowly, trying not to wince. Yes, sir. He was already standing beside your desk, brows pinched together. You sent me the wrong version of the financial deck. He held up his tablet, flipping it around to show the file. This is the Q1 draft. We finalized Q2 last Friday. Why am I looking at outdated projections? You squinted, your brain trying to remember. Last Friday felt like a fever dream. You blinked rapidly. Sorry, I thought I sent. I'm not interested in what you thought, Miss Lee. His voice was sharper now. Fix it, the Europe investor call is at 2. They're expecting updated numbers. You swallowed hard. Yes, sir, I'll correct it right away. He didn't move. His gaze lingered on your face, too long for it to be casual. You look like hell. He muttered bluntly. Your fingers froze on the keyboard. I'm fine. You lied, offering a small smile. Just didn't sleep well. He scoffed softly. Didn't sleep well or didn't want to work again. Your eyes met his. I said I'm fine. You repeated quieter this time. Your voice cracked a little, betraying the tightness in your throat. He tilted his head slightly, that cold, unreadable expression tightening further. You have used this act before, Miss Lee. Last time it was the gala dinner. The time before that, a product launch. Every time you pull this innocent face when something inconvenient shows up on the schedule. Your cheeks flushed, not from embarrassment, but from frustration. I'm not faking it today. He raised a brow. How convenient. Sir, I really. You paused as a sudden wave of dizziness hit you. You placed a hand on the desk discreetly to steady yourself. He noticed, but he didn't soften. You are a capable employee, Miss Lee. I don't expect excuses from you, especially not with a call this important. You stare at him. Normally, you would snap back with a witty remark, maybe roll your eyes or throw him a sarcastic salute, but today all you could do was nod. Understood. He looked at you a second longer as if expecting some sort of fight, but when it didn't come, he simply turned away. Correct the deck, he said as he walked back to his office. Don't make me remind you again. And just like that, the door closed behind him with a click. You slumped back in your chair as soon as he was gone. The tears stung your eyes, not from his scolding, you had endured that 100 times before, but from the pressure in your head. It was unbearable now. Your limbs were sore, your fingers were cold, and the corners of your vision had started to blur. That's the price you pay when you have fooled your boss so many times. Ash, my luck. You got back to work now regretting for those times when you faked it and he believed you instantly, but it was way too many times that now he realized you do that to avoid any company celebration party. You glanced down at your trembling hands. You weren't faking it, but Jungkook had already made up his mind, and maybe you had given him enough reason in the past to doubt you now. Still, something about the way he had stared at you, like he almost hesitated, lingered in the back of your thoughts, as if somewhere deep down he noticed but chose not to believe. By 1:45 pm, the boardroom on the 21st floor was buzzing with tension. Top executives, foreign investors, and key department heads were already seated around the long marble table. Laptops were open, translation earpieces tested, water glass untouched. Everyone knew that when John Jungkook walked in, you had to be 5 steps ahead or risk being buried under your own incompetence. And today's meeting, it wasn't just another routine check-in, it was a presentation for a massive expansion deal across Europe, the kind of deal that could either make or break fourth quarter profits, the kind of deal John Jungkook didn't tolerate even one mistake in. And you, his secretary, were in charge of preparing all the files, translations, and visual decks. But the papers in your hand were shaking, your body temperature had dropped even more, sweat clung to your back, soaking through the silk of your blouse. You could barely lift your legs to walk straight down the hallway. The dizziness had returned with full force. You hadn't even eaten lunch. You couldn't. Everything in your stomach threatened to come up. But you kept going because he was waiting, because he didn't believe you, because you couldn't mess this up again. Inside the boardroom, Jungkook was already seated at the head of the table, fingers steepled beneath his chin. His expression was as cold as ever. Not a strand of his dark hair was out of place. His charcoal suit looked like it had been custom stitched onto his frame. He didn't look up when you entered, didn't acknowledge your presence, as if the tension from earlier had vanished from his memory. You took a deep breath and began moving around the table, placing the bound folders in front of each guest. Every step felt like walking through molasses. The edges of your vision flickered like static. You had to keep blinking just to stay upright. You reached Mr. Min from legal, then Mr. Park from strategy. Finally, the lead investor from Brussels, Only one copy remained, the one in your trembling hand. For Jungkook himself, you moved to his side, placed the file down in front of him with trembling fingers and whispered, "All set, sir." He didn't respond, just adjusted his sleeve slightly and reached for the file, and that's when the world stopped. You felt it before it happened, the sharp lung in your stomach, the white hot pain behind your eyes, the sheer nothingness as your knees buckled from under you. Your hand tried to grasp the edge of the table, but it was too late. You crashed to the floor with a deafening thud, your temples smacking against the edge of the table before your head hit the cold marble. There was a gasp, then silence. For a split second, no one moved, and then, "Ryan." Your name came out from his mouth, not Miss Lee or anything. "Someone call an ambulance," a manager yelled, jumping to their feet. "Miss Lee, Miss Lee, is she bleeding? Gosh, she's burning up." Chairs screeched as everyone scrambled toward you, but none reached you faster than Jungkook. His eyes widened, not in cold calculation this time, but raw panic. "Ryan," he breathed out, kneeling beside you. "Ryan, open your eyes." Nothing. Your body was completely still. He placed a hand on your forehead, and for the first time in years, John Jungkook flinched. "You were burning up, not just warm, burning." His voice cracked just a little. "Shit, Ryan." One of the investors tried to speak. "Mr. John, should we cancel the meeting?" Jungkook snapped, not looking away from you. "Now." The entire room froze again. You heard him. Someone from the executive's team barked, "Clear the room, everyone out." People scrambled to gather their belongings. Even the foreign investor didn't argue. No one wanted to be caught between Jungkook and his fury. Not today. Jungkook stayed on the floor beside you, cradling your head with trembling hands. "Why didn't you tell me?" he whispered, brushing strands of damp hair away from your face. But he already knew the answer. He had made you feel like your words didn't matter, that your sickness was a joke, that you had to prove yourself even if it killed you. 20 minutes later, the paramedics arrived. They checked your vitals, placed an oxygen mask gently over your mouth, and loaded you onto the stretcher. Jungkook followed them all the way to the lobby. He didn't care that people were watching. Didn't care that he had just abandoned one of the most important meetings of his career. He just stood there in the glass walled lobby, fist clenched his sides, watching the ambulance doors close. He didn't blink, didn't speak, didn't breathe until the sirens disappeared into the city traffic. Back upstairs, his office was cold, quiet. He returned to grab his car keys, ignoring every employee who tried to approach him. His assistant stammered about rescheduling meetings. The COO tried to speak. Jungkook raised a hand to silence them all. "Out," he said. "Sir, out." They left, and once the door shut, John Jungkook stood there, still in the same position, your name still echoing in his head, your pale face, trembling hands, the sound of your head hitting the floor. He stared down at the file you had left on his desk, the last one you touched before collapsing. Your neat handwriting on the label. His own breath felt suffocating now. He remembered the way your voice cracked when you said, "I'm not faking it today." And he didn't believe you. He thought it was just another performance, another escape plan, another silly game you played, but this time it cost you. And the worst part, he didn't just ignore it. He pushed you harder. He punished you for being weak, and now you were in a hospital because of him. The hallway outside the ICU smelled like antiseptic and quiet despair. Bright lights, white walls, distant murmurs, and one man standing as still as a statue against the far wall. His tie loosened, his hair slightly disheveled, eyes fixed on the red glowing sign above the door that read, "Surgery in progress." John Jungkook hadn't moved in over 2 hours. His phone kept buzzing in his pocket. Calls from the board, his assistant, media reporters, hungry to spin a story, but he didn't answer a single one. Not when you were in there. Not when he might have caused this. The memory of you collapsing played in his head on a vicious loop. The sound of your head hitting the floor. He could still hear it, still feel the way your skin had burned under his palm when he touched your forehead, still hear your voice, cracked and small. I'm not faking it today. He had mocked you, dismissed you, and then loaded you with more work until your body finally gave up. The doctors came out a little after 5 p.m. A nurse approached him cautiously. Mr. John. He stood up straighter, but his eyes never left the ICU doors. She's out of surgery. There was swelling near the temple from the impact, and she lost consciousness due to dangerously high fever. We have stabilized her now, but it will take time. Her immune system is weak. You caught it just in time. Jungkook didn't say anything for a long moment, just closed his eyes and exhaled a breath so shaky it made the nurse pause. Can I see her? He asked, his voice hoarse. She's still under anesthesia, but we'll let you know the moment she wakes up. He nodded and went right back to standing outside the ICU door. You woke up to the sound of machines beeping softly beside your bed. Your throat felt dry, your body heavy, every joint ached as though you had been hit by a truck. It took a moment for your eyes to adjust, for the sterile ceiling to come into focus. You were in a hospital. It all came back slowly, like puzzle pieces forming an image you didn't want to see. The boardroom, your shaking hands, Jungkook's disappointed voice, the final steps before your world faded to black. You tried to sit up but winced, a bolt of pain flashing through the side of your head. A nurse walked in. See, you had a concussion and fever-related collapse. You are lucky it wasn't worse. You hit your head pretty hard. You let out a breath, of course you did. Is anyone here? You asked quietly. The nurse blinked. He's still outside. He? She smiled softly. The man who hasn't moved in 5 hours. Suited, looks like he hasn't breathed since you were brought in. Your heart skipped, Jungkook. An hour later, they moved you out of the ICU. When the doors opened and your bed was rolled out, you saw him, still standing in the exact same spot, except now his eyes looked red, tired. His tie was gone, the sleeves of his shirt rolled to his elbows, but he moved the second he saw you. Ryan, he whispered. You blinked up at him. He looked almost scared. Hey, you tried to smile, your voice rasping. Still mad about the financial deck? His jaw clenched, and then his whole face shattered. Don't joke like that, he whispered, barely audible. You were wheeled into a private room and he followed without hesitation. The second the nurses left, the silence hung between you like thick fog. He stood at the edge of your bed, fist clenched at his sides. You raised a brow weakly. You are scaring me a little. That's when he moved, sat down and buried his face in his hands. Your eyes widened. He wasn't just quiet, he was crying. Actual tears. Jungkook, I thought I lost you. His voice cracked so deeply it didn't even sound like him. You just stared, completely frozen. You had seen him sad before, seen him crushed when his grandfather passed. He hadn't spoken to anyone for days. Barely ate. You were the one who stayed late to keep the office running. Left snacks outside his door, sat quietly in case he wanted to talk. He never did. But this was raw, unfiltered. He looked up and the pain in his eyes was like nothing you had ever seen. I thought you were faking it, like before. I thought you were just trying to get out of another event and I didn't. He cut himself off, fist trembling. I pushed you harder. I punished you. I ignored everything right in front of me because I was too damn stubborn to believe you. You stared at him, stunned. He ran a hand through his hair, pulling at the roots. I thought I knew you, but I didn't listen when it actually mattered. Jungkook. I saw you shivering. I saw your hands shaking, and I still made you do everything. He swallowed hard, voice cracking again. And then you just dropped in front of me and I didn't know if you're going to. He broke off, biting the inside of his cheek, his voice hollow now. It's my fault. Tears stung your own eyes now, not from pain, not from fear, but from him, from watching this man who had always held himself together like stone, fall apart because of you. I've seen you quiet when your grandfather died. He whispered. You didn't cry then. He met your gaze and whispered back, because I didn't lose him the way I almost lost you. You blinked stunned. The room spun in silence again. Slowly, carefully, you reached for his hand. He hesitated, then curled his fingers around yours like he had been holding in that need for years. You are not just my secretary, Vian, he said softly, and finally, you never were. Your breath caught. You didn't know what to say, not because you didn't feel the same, but because you hadn't let yourself believe he ever could. But now, holding his hand, watching the cracks in his icy facade finally melt, it was all there, bare, real. You swallowed, your voice a little shaky. Then what am I to you? His eyes lifted to meet yours, dark, tired, but no longer guarded. You are the first person who ever saw me as more than my title. You called me out when no one dared to speak. You made me laugh, God, actually laugh, when I thought I had forgotten how. You showed up for me when I pushed everyone else away. He looked down, jaw flexing. And I? His voice broke again. I nearly lost you because I was too blind to admit that you mean more to me than anyone else ever has. Tears welled up in your eyes, but you didn't let them fall. Instead, you reached up, gently brushing his hair back from his forehead. His eyes fluttered close at the touch. I was just trying to keep my job, you whispered with a half laugh. Didn't know I was accidentally stealing your heart too. He huffed a quiet, broken chuckle. You didn't steal it, I gave it to you. The moment you walked into my office and asked if the suit came with a personality. You laughed softly, remembering your first day, how he had looked at you like you were a glitch in his perfect system, and maybe you were, but you were the only one who made his system feel alive again. Jungkook sat beside you, still holding your hand. His thumb grazed over your knuckles again and again like he couldn't believe you were real. Then quieter now, he said, if you need time, I'll wait. If you don't feel the same, I do. He froze. You smiled, weak but warm. I always did. I just never thought you would want someone who makes animal noises during lunch breaks and make excuses to escape work sometimes. Well, this wasn't your fault, but my lesson not to break someone's trust so much that they stop believing you. He shook his head, eyes shining now. You have no idea what you mean to me. You leaned your head back against the pillow, finally letting your fingers slip completely into his. No more pretending, Jungkook. He nodded. Never again. He stayed with you until the soft light of dawn crept through the curtains, until the beeping machines became background music to a new kind of rhythm, the steady quiet beat of something just beginning. Not secretary and CEO, but something softer, stronger, and finally real.